You see the do you see the PowerPoint?
Let me go to it.
Should have the mountain background in the ordinance.
Yeah, got the mountain and the music going.
Oh, okay. All right, we're good. Okay. Get ready to start here. All right, let's go ahead and start. So, does anybody have any prayer, any praise, anything tonight, or before we get started this evening? This is it's part 37, but it's chapter 25. And like I said, I don't think it's going to be really that long, but I don't know. Never know. So, did anybody have anything?
I'm just thankful to y'all for, as usual, for his faithfulness and his grace, his love, grace, and mercy.
Yes.
I couldn't make it without it. I can't do without it. And I know some time ago people used to say, if he don't do nothing else for me, that would be enough. I can't say that. I need him to do something for me every day. I can't make it without him.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, hey, he do something for you every day.
Yes.
Well, you know, you breathing is something he's doing for you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, every day. So, yep, good point there.
Yeah, I like to piggyback off of Uncle Grady. Daily manna, you know, I just like just enough for more and more, but I'm just so thankful for how he's blessing me, you know, just a little bit every day.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so when you say daily manna, you talking about that bread, right?
Yeah. I am.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I just want to make sure everybody else knew what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I didn't want them to think you got some kind of manna coming down from heaven. Actual bread.
Yes.
I knew they didn't. I'm just teasing.
Yeah. But I'm thankful.
Yeah, but I'm thankful too, though, Jacqueline, with that as well, because it's just a wonderful thing that when Yah brings you to understanding the things through His Word, it's really a wonderful thing, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
The new mercies every day.
Every day. You know, I say this all the time, though, but I'm looking at here at my scriptures and stuff here, and these pages, they just look like I look like I had this thing since the 1800s. I mean, I love it to pieces too, and that's something. Can't see half the stuff, but still love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Pages torn up and everything else. It's going to be hard for me to get rid of this one and go to another one. It's going to be difficult. That's why I think I'll be keeping this until Yahushua comes back. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Hold on.
Hold on. Well, if there's nothing else, let me go ahead and have prayer, and then we can go ahead and get started. Again, Father in heaven, we come before you. We thank you thus far how you have brought us through Leviticus, pretty much to the closing, to the end of the last 3 chapters. We ask that you help us to be able to continue and meet again tomorrow evening, not for a continuation of this series, but for opening up the Sabbath. We want to thank you so much for your grace and your mercy, and we pray you continue to be with us this evening and anyone else that's coming on as well. We ask this in your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All righty. So, this chapter 25. I think this chapter is Is this chapter the one that has more verses than any other chapters in Leviticus? Does this one have? I think this one has more than any of them, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 55, ain't it?
Huh?
I think it's 55.
Yeah. Oh no. You know what? Chapter 14. Chapter 14 has 57 verses. Oh, chapter 13 has 59 verses. Okay, so maybe that's the. Man, I didn't realize. Forgot that quick. Man, so it's quite a few chapters that's got 45 or more verses in them. So yeah, okay. Very good. All right. So as usual, we have those 6 questions. Because, pretty much the purpose of this is to determine whether or not these ordinances move over to the new covenant, more so or less. Now we're on chapter 25. And I've actually broken this down into 4 sections. And the 4 sections is Leviticus 25, 1 through 7, that's first section. And then 8 to 22 verses, that's the second section. 23 to 38, that's the third section. And 39 to 55, that's pretty much the fourth section. So I kind of, like I said, these ordinances are broken down. So let's see how we're going to do this. Instead of reading the whole thing, let's do them in sections. So that way we can just keep track of each section, more so or less. Of course, when we get to question 5 and 6, it applies to all of them. Question 4 is more so or less divided up into the sections, but the rest of them is pretty much the same. So, pretty much all of them is in, all sections are in one. The first one, the second one, third one, fifth and sixth. But the fourth one is where the section is divided out when we carry it over to the new covenant. So let's just do it one section at a time, kind of get somebody to read. We in 25 and read the first 7 verses. Well, before you do that, let me do number 2 and number 3 first. Before we do that, let me just go through those 2 first, and then we'll do the sections, and then we'll do 5 and 6. So let's do it that way. So let me just continue on before we get to each one of the sections and read it. What we'll find is that this ordinance doesn't. The second question, the first question, of course, is what is the ordinances? Now, we've already read this from whatever week that before when we did it originally. I don't know, way back in the 12th, 13th part or whatever it was. When we went through all 27 chapters, but we didn't do any determining whether it moved to the new covenant or not. We were just going through those chapters of Leviticus. So we actually went through it one time, but I do want to do it again as we go through whether it moved over to the new covenant or not. So what we're going to do is, I'll go ahead and just read the second question is, did the ordinance exist or ordinances exist before sin entered the world? And then we'll, of course, go look at those 4 sections. And you can almost determine for yourself whether it did or not. And the answer is no, that none of these from Leviticus 25 existed before sin. The third question was, how does the word forever apply to these ordinances? Now, other words, is the word forever mentioned with these ordinances? And 3 times in this chapter that the word forever is used. And I'm going to read these 3 verses. Of course, we're going to read it again when we go through each section. But in 25, verse 23, is it 23? I think it's 20. Verse 23. Yes. Verse 23, the land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And in verse 30 it says, and if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out into the Jubilee. And then it's mentioned the last time in verse 46, the word forever. It says, and ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you to inherit them for possession. They should be your bondsmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Okay. So verse 30, for example, if a house is in a walled city, we talked about this in Jubilee. If a house is in a walled city, it was not to be redeemed in a year, then the house that was in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations, and it shall not. Now this is in the walled city. This is not outside of the city. This is a walled city. It should not go out for Jubilee. Then verse 46, which references verses 44 and 45, that both bondsmen and bondmaids, which they have of the heathen that are round about them, shall ye buy bondsmen and bondsmaid, in addition of the children of Israel, of the strangers that sojourn among them, they were to buy, and of their families that are with them, which they begat in their land, they were to be their possessions. And they were to be a possession, they shall be your bondsmen forever, but they were not to treat them with rigor, but to treat them as one that is their own brethren, and we know about that, how they were supposed to treat strangers and those that was in the camp, they was to treat them as one of their own. So even with the bondsmen and bondswomen, they're to be treated that way. So now, what I want to do is go into whether these ordinances are carried over to the new covenant. So let's look at Leviticus. Let's start with the very first one, Leviticus 25, verses 1 to 7. And somebody read that for me. So we got 4 of these. So somebody read this. First one, 25, 1 through 7.
And Yahuwah spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto Yahuwah. In 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, in 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for Yahuwah. Thou shalt neither sow thy field, nor prune thy vineyard. That which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of thy vine undressed. For it is a year of rest unto the land. And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, for thee and for thy servant, and for thy maid, and for thy hired servant, and for thy stranger that sojourneth with thee, and for thy cattle, and for the beasts that are in thy land, shall all the increase thereof be meat.
Okay. We talked about this before. I just want to go. The thing is, we're not going to get into all that again, because you can always go back to when we talked about this before. And what I'm going to probably wind up doing too is going back into the, if we go online into YouTube, you got all these parts. I may have to go back and change these parts and leave the parts in there probably, but add in what it's talking about so people have an idea what these parts are. Because right now, if I say go back to when I talked about that, nobody would have an idea where to go to, what part. But if you have on there Leviticus 27 or Leviticus 26 or whatever like that, then you have a better idea to listen to the whole thing. So I'm going to do that probably a little later on when I get the time to do that, to change those So it'll be better, more accessible in understanding what those particular messages that day are talking about. But here, remember from Leviticus 19, verses 23 to 25, it said that, and when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you, shall not be eaten of, but the 4th year all the fruit thereof shall be holy to praise you who are with them. And in the 5th year shall ye eat of the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am Yahuwah, your Yah. And the children of Israel, once Yah gave them their inheritance, after their 40 years of wilderness journey, they were to follow the guidelines Yah set for them in these verses too, as well. Under Joshua's leadership, the children of Israel entered and conquered the promised land, which was the Canaan land, which was the land of what the scriptures called milk and honey, fulfilling Yah's promise to their forefathers. If you go over to Joshua, like Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 through 6, and I'll read that. Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 through 6. This is Joshua. This is dealing with what it says in the book of Joshua. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, or the servant of Yahuwah, it came to pass that Yahuwah spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore, arise and go over this Jordan, thou and all the people, into the land which I do give them, even to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even into the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and even the great sea there toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. Speaking of Joshua. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage, for unto the people shall thou divide an inheritance, the land which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Their fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the land was divided amongst the 12 tribes. And we can find out who got what when you look at Joshua chapter 13 through chapter 21. And of course, the Levites got part of the land of the children of Israel as far as the cities within there, because they were the priesthood. They were the Levitical priesthood system. So they didn't get like an actual land of inheritance outside of the individual portions that they got of the children of Israel, because they had Levitical cities there amongst the children of Israel, because they were the priesthood. Okay, so in 586, Jerusalem was destroyed, and the people of Judah were taken captive to Babylon. So now this is before Yahushua walked the earth, of course. And this is in 2 Kings 15, 1 to 21, and also in 2 Chronicles 36, 17 to 21. Now this marked a significant loss of their physical inheritance, the land promised to them by Yah. The exile was a direct result of their failure to uphold the covenant with Yah, as promised by Jeremiah and other prophets. By the time they were under Roman rule, and I've mentioned this before, I believe, the inheritance was not the same. Even before then, to some extent, they had lost land. Remember when Assyria took over Israel in 721. So They had lost land then because they blended in with them. Because if you go to 2 Kings, 17:21, 2 Kings 17:21, you will see in 2 Kings, I think it's 17, I thought it was 17:21. No, 23, 17:23. Until Yahuwah removed Israel out of his sight. These were the 10 tribes. That were the one to Jeroboam, that he gave the land to Jeroboam, the 10 tribes. And now the Lord removed Israel out of his sight. As he has said by all his servants and the prophets, so was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. So it would have been difficult to maintain the process from which Yah had gave them because of their disobedience. So by 63, I'm going to call it, I usually say BY, but I'm going to say BCE, before, I don't even like the word common era. I forgot the word. There's another one I like to use instead, current, before the current era. So they were a vassal state, I mentioned that before, meaning that they had a mutual obligation to a superior state or empire. So in this case, it was Rome. They were under Roman rule. They could be that could be the main reason it was not mentioned in the new covenant about Jubilee and all that, because the inheritance from the old covenant was significantly lost or reduced. Therefore, maintaining the fullness of their inheritance would have been difficult to maintain, considering much of their original inheritance was lost throughout the years. All these takeovers, from Babylon to Mede, Persia to Greece to Rome, they ain't maintained to keep the same thing they had through all that. So did this section 1, Leviticus 25, 1-7, did that move over to the new covenant? I would say no. So let's go to the second part. Go to Leviticus chapter 8. Go to Leviticus chapter 8. Now read Leviticus chapter 25, verses 8 to 22. That's the second section, section 2. Somebody read that for me. Section 2. You can break it up into 2 people if you want to, but it's Leviticus 25, 8 to 22, and this is the second breakdown section.
And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of thy wine undressed. For it is the Jubilee, it shall be holy unto you. Ye shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this Jubilee ye shall return every man unto his possession. And if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor, or buyest out of thy neighbor's land, ye shall not oppress one another, or according to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits he shall sell unto thee. According to the multitude of years thou shalt increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years thou shalt diminish the price of it. For according to the number of the years of the fruits doth he sell unto thee. Ye shall not therefore oppress one another, but thou shalt fear thy Yah, for I am Yahuwah your Yah. Wherefore ye shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and ye shall dwell in the land in safety, and the land shall yield her fruit, and ye shall eat your fill and dwell therein in safety. And if ye shall say, what shall we eat the seventh year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the sixth year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years. And ye shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old store.
Okay. Oh, that's it. Okay. So really this section here is the beginning. We was talking about this Jubilee and how the Jubilee was be handled. Again, we got into talking about this Jubilee more in depth earlier on, so I'm not even going to spend a lot of time in that because this portion of it is to talk about whether it moves over to the new covenant or not, whether or not Jubilee, from understanding here, should move over to the new covenant. From my study, I believe it does not. No, I believe it does not, and there's a bunch of reasons. Well, there's a few reasons why, but this was a special time. Every 50 years was to be a Jubilee year. It was a time when every man's possession was to be returned to him, as well as every man returned to his family. Nowhere in the new covenant is found the word Jubilee. I never saw the word Jubilee or anything that hints to it. And maybe you all can, if you can, just let me know. I have not found it. But what is found is what Paul had to say about freedom. If we go over to 1 Corinthians, go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Verses 19 to 24. I want to read that. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 19 to 24. And it says, circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but the keeping of the commandments of Yah. Verse 20, let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Art thou called being a servant? Care not for it. But if thou mayest be made free, use it rather. For he, this 22, for he that is called in Yahuwah, being a servant, is Yahuwah's free man. Likewise also he that is called being free is Yahushua's servant. 23, ye are bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of men. 24, brethren, let every man wherein he is called therein abide with Yah. Now, there's some breakdown of words here that I want to just look at, like the word call, G2564. Of course, that means, as it says, the call, to bid someone aloud, to call out. The word abide, G3306, meaning to stay, given in place, to state, continue, to dwell, endure, remain, to stand. Servant, of course, G1401, actually meaning, according to this, figuratively or literally, a slave, involuntary or voluntary, a bondsman. So there's someone basically that's in kind of like captivity or bondage. There's a few other words. The word free, G 1658, meaning not a slave, exempt from any obligation or liability to anyone like that. So you're a free man or woman. You're at liberty. And then the word free man, G 558, meaning one that's freed away, a freed man, a man that is free. So let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. Here is the interesting thing, one of the things I'm thinking about. Well, I'll probably get to it in a second here. I'll probably get to it here in a second. Yeah, I'll probably get to it in a second. But let me just mention this one thing. You have people out here that we know that works for others. And there, for whatever reason, there are slaves out here today. There are people that are not free. That is sad to say that, but it's true. And it's probably in various nations, they even probably have some here in the United States, that people are basically operating off of slavery mentality. Many people are. In the scriptures, I want to read some scriptures here. Let me see. I want to read a few of those scriptures here. Romans 1:1. Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be an apostle, separated him into the gospel of Yah. Verse 7. To all that be in Rome, beloved of Yah, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from Yah, our Father, and from the Master Yahushua HaMashiach. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Paul again called to be an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach through the will of Yah, and Sosthenes, our brother, and 2, unto the assembly of Yah, which is at Corinth, to them that are sanctified in Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be saints, with all that is in every place, call upon the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, our master, both theirs and ours. And I want to go to 2 Timothy 1:9. 2 Timothy 1:9. There's more I want to talk about this, but I'm going to get it to in another section. 2 Timothy 1:9, it says, who have saved us and called us, this is all dealing with called us with a holy calling, a Kadesh calling, not according to our works, but according to our own purpose and grace, which was given us in Yahushua HaMashiach before the world began. We are called to Yahushua to be his servant, and to him that is his servant, to Yahushua. If we are to him, then we are indeed free. And he is Yahuwah's free man. We are Yahushua's servant and no longer in bondage, because we were paid with a price, and we are not servants of men, but we are to abide in Yah. We are no one's possession, but Yahushua's servant. Only through him we are free. Thus we do not need a special time to be free. We are already free. We don't have to wait till the time of Jubilee, which was back then, to be free. We don't have to wait after 50 years till ever sudden the horn blows and everybody's free. We should already be free. We should already be free. Everybody that's on this earth should be free. When we get to heaven, I haven't seen anywhere where it said there's going to be bondsmen and bondswomen in heaven. There's going to be servants in heaven. We'll be under the umbrella of Yahushua HaMashiach. We'll be serving him. We'll be coming, giving honor and glory and worshiping him. But that's it. That's it. Because the scriptures tell us that we're going to be building our own houses and no one's going to come and steal from you. No one's going to, you're going to have your own place. So therefore, if you won't need anybody, matter of fact, I think it's in Isaiah 65. I think that's the one that goes in my mind is Isaiah 65. Yeah, it's 65 verse 21 and 22. It says, and they shall build houses and inhabit it. This is all in heaven, because verse 17 gives you the condition, what this is at. This is the new heaven, new earth. And they shall build houses and inhabit them. And they should plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They should not build and another inhabit. They should not plant and another eat. For as the days of the trees are the days of my people, and my elect shall long enjoy the works of their hands. There's not going to be anybody that's going to be working for you at your place. There's not going to be anybody taking anything of yours. You're going to be able to reap from what you put into it. So I don't see anywhere where it's justifiable that there's going to be any slavery or bondsmen and bondwomen in heaven. And according to this 50th year of Jubilee, 7 times 7 years, 49, and that next year, the 50th year, really on the Day of Atonement, 7th month, 10th day, was the beginning of that year for the beginning of that Jubilee. We don't need that now. We don't need to be free in that 50th year because we're already free. Praise Yah, we're already free. So therefore, if I don't see the need of us celebrating a Jubilee necessarily in reference to what happens on Jubilee, because what happens on Jubilee is that when that time comes in the 50th year, every man's possession is back to him again, and every man is returned back to his family. Where when we get to heaven, we're going to have our own possession, and we all going to be one big family. We're going to know each other, but we're all going to be the bride of Yahuwah. So therefore, I don't see no need of us celebrating something like this when right now we should already be free. We shouldn't wait on I shouldn't be waiting however much time before I can wind up being free. No, we already free through Yahushua. Praise Yah. We're already free through him. And over in the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 48. So right now, as far as we're concerned, as being free or married or however our families is, if you're free, the scriptures tell us to much is given, much is required of us. And that's what Luke 12:48 in essence says. So we as a free man rely on Yah. Yah has given us whatever he given us. And to much he has given us, to much is required of us. So if he's blessed us with multiple things, then he requires more of us. If the free man don't have as much as this other free man has, then he requires of that one whatever he gives him. So we're not in bondage. Right now, none of us should be in bondage. We should not be in bondage. Unfortunately, throughout the world, there are people that's in bondage, that's in slavery. And I got something about that too. There are people that's in bondage. But I'm going to get to that, probably get to that when we get to section 4. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I want to say about that. But let's go to section 3 now. Section 3 is verses 23 to 38. 23 to 30. Somebody read that for me. Leviticus 25. Leviticus 25, 23 to 38. Can somebody read that?
Leviticus 25:23.
All the way to 38.
38, okay. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And in all the land of your possession ye shall grant a redemption for the land. If thy brother be waxen poor and hath sold away some of his possessions, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man were none to redeem it, have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that hath bought it until the year of Jubilee. And in the Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return unto his possession. And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. And if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee. But the houses of the villages which have no wall about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Notwithstanding, the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold in the city of his possession shall go out in the year of Jubilee. For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possession among the children of Israel. But the field of the suburbs of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, then he may live with thee. Take thou no usury of him or increase, but fear thy Yah, that thy brother may live with thee. Thou shalt not give him thy money upon usury, nor lend him thy victuals or increase. 38. I am Yahuwah your Yah, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan, and to be your Yah.
See, this again goes back to the fact that we got a people that Yah has brought, is getting ready, because we're in Leviticus here, he was getting ready, when he got to Deuteronomy, getting ready to bring them over into the promised land. So he has to get a people that's be ready and understand how to run a life of civility, how to run a life of mainly of obedience, but he had to have structure. So this Jubilee, because people, them coming out of Egypt, they were slaves. Then that means then that as they going along and going to the promised land, they run into people that some people didn't have nowhere to go maybe. Some people just, because children of Israel, they were fighting different nations as they was going. So then a lot of people didn't have anywhere to go, ransacked, and just, places destroyed because the children of Israel was following Yah's instructions as they was going to the promised land. So there's different foreigners, there's different sojourners also, there's different people that would come into the camp. Because remember, they already had a mixed multitude that came out of Egypt with them. And then as they traveling, they being mixed in with other people as they went along. But Yah had to have a structure, not only for the children of Israel, but a structure for all these people that's coming in. They got the dead. Can you imagine? The children of Israel already was a disobedient people. But could you imagine if they had no structure? Yah gave them a structure as a people. He gave them this is what you do. You got these people that's going to be like bondsmen and bondwomen, but because they're going to be working for you. but I want them to be treated just like you would treat your own son. And I want them to be paid the way they're supposed to be paid. I don't want them, this is Yah, I don't want them mistreated. I do not want them mistreated. They're to be treated the same way, but they just relying on you all because they have nothing. You guys were bondage. Y'all was in captivity in Egypt. You should understand that. So therefore, there's others out here that was like you were, and now they're looking for refuge. So now you are going to be their refuge, and not only are you going to be their refuge, and they're going to be like part of you, you're going to teach them my word. You're going to teach them my ordinances. You're going to give them my statutes, which is the laws. You're going to let them know if this is broken or that is broken, here's the judgment. Here are the commandments. You guys got to keep and do what we do. That is what Yah was formulating. That's why he had to have all this ordinances. And when you start getting people together like this, you got to have rules, man. This universe don't operate off rules. And we talked about this before. Everything is governed by some kind of rules. And if we don't obey those rules, we don't obey those laws, then there's consequences to it. Just like there's consequences if we don't follow the ordinances and obey what Yah told us to do, those things that's carried over to the new covenant after Yahushua died. If we don't cover those, if we don't carry over that same obedience like the people before were supposed to do, we in turn are going to be judged. Our judge may not be like the ordinances say, where it's immediate, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, breach for a breach, but it will eventually come. So it's like a whole big old storyline here that we're looking at. So basically, we have here the laws concerning in these verses. We have the laws concerning servitude, designed to preserve the honor of the Jewish nation as a free people and rescued by Yahuwah's power out of the house of bondage into the glorious liberty of Yah's son, his firstborn. As it is in the previous sections, the remaining of the chapter centers around the outcome being Jubilee. And we have discussed Jubilee, we have discussed it before. Nowhere, again, is the word Jubilee or anything similar to it that I have found in the New Covenant. So however, as mentioned earlier, we all have been called to be Yahushua's servants. This is what I want to say too. Slavery today, and now we're talking about today. Slavery, trafficking, selling and buying of humans, life is forbidden by Yahushua. He never intended for that to happen. You think he intended for children to be taken from their parents because they're on their way to school and they get snatched and they sold for sex trafficking? You think Yah intended for it to be? That's the devil. That's the people that allow evil and demons to be in them. That's what they do. But Yah never intended for this world to operate like that. He didn't intend on it operating when he created. He didn't intend for it to operate after sin. That's the reason why his son came and died for us, to save us, to get us away from all that foolishness. So he never condoned slavery, trafficking, selling and buying of human life. That is absolutely forbidden, and that's been something that's been going on through centuries and millenniums. It's been going on. This ain't nothing new. It's nothing new under the sun. We already know that from Ecclesiastes chapter 1. There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes tells us in chapter 1, verse 9, the thing that have been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there's no new thing under the sun. So is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new. It has been already of old time, which was before us. So this trafficking of selling humans, boys and girls, is forbidden. Slavery is forbidden. Yah doesn't prove of that. He had laws for it. He had laws for it, but he doesn't approve of that because he had to have some type of laws for the people to follow because they still got that human mindset. See, because if the Egyptians had followed Yah's rule, those that were in Egypt, Jacob's family, his generation, they would have never ran into what Exodus 1 say, that they wind up under new Pharaoh, wind up working under rigorous work. They was treated very badly. And that's the reason why Yah, see, so their mindset is fixated on stuff that happened to them all those years in Egypt. So Yah had to give them rules. He had to give them laws. He had to give them statutes and judgment so that they can understand the life that he wanted them to live and the life that he wanted to teach others. He had to do that. So now, coming into the new covenant, we needed someone to actually come and physically look. We can look straight in the face to show us how to live that life. And Yahushua HaMashiach did that. He did that. And he even told the people back then, there's people that wish they could have seen what those people at that time were seeing, looking at him. We didn't get a chance to see it, but see, the people before him had to have faith to believe that he was coming, and we got faith to believe that he did come. And in either case, it's still faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. They never saw Yahushua physically, and we never saw him physically, but we believed who he was. And we got the testimonies in our own lives to validate it. We don't need to have somebody else's testimony. We have our own personal testimonies, if we be honest with ourselves. We have our own personal testimonies to validate how Yahushua has been good to all of us. So all this traffic and all this stuff is not required. So some may say, well, Yahushua nor the apostles said anything directly about forbidding these acts of non-kindness of slavery. So let us reason this out according to Isaiah 118. If we are free in him, then how can we be bondsmen and bondswomen? That would leave our control under another human. Somebody say, well, you could be a slave to someone but still in Yah, but you're still in slavery. Okay, we got something for that too. So, that means if we allow ourselves to be under the control of a man, and when I'm saying control, I'm actually talking about the Ruach too. We understand that we have somebody to be in control of our thoughts and our mind and telling us to do things that we shouldn't be doing, even though we are in slavery, we're in bondage. Because you remember what Peter says. I'd rather obey Yah than man. There was no specifications on that, who you were rich, poor, free, or bond. If you follow Yah, you follow Yah. You don't follow man. So, in saying that, I want us to go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 5 through 9. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 5 through 9. I want us to go there. And look what it says here. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 5 through 9. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling in singleness of your heart as unto Yahushua. So listen to the words closely. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Yahushua HaMashiach, doing the will of Yah from the heart. So you are a servant, but you're doing the will of Yah. 7, with good will doing service as to the Yahuwah or to the Lord or to the master, and not to men. 8, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall be received of Yahuwah, whether he be bond or free. Verse 9, here is the key. And ye masters, you all that have these servants doing your work for you, or whatever they're doing for you, and ye masters doing the same things unto them, forbearing, threatening, knowing that your master also is in heaven, neither is there respect of persons with him. These masters also need to be of Yah. They should be humble masters. There's been a lot of people out here that has servants, and those servants are almost treated better than the household people, better than their relatives. But we have many, society as a whole. And when I say society, I'm just referencing worldwide. I mean, there's places where there's servants, bondsmen and bondswomen worldwide that's being treated like dogs. Just like the scripture talked about when he was talking about not even Yahushua, in Luke 16. In Luke 16, when it was talking about the rich man and Lazarus. See, it was talking about how Yahushua said, and the woman said to Yahushua, she ate the crumbs from off the table, which means that she'll, just like any servant or any person that's poor or anybody don't have anything, they'll take whatever they can get. They can take whatever they can get. Yahushua loves that. Because Yahushua has no respect of persons. You have people out there that has little, very little, and more obedient to Yah than those that have plenty. I'm going to say it again. You have many out there that are poor, in bondage, everything that's in a negative state. From what we see somebody looking at someone, they're in better state, spirit, ruach-wise, than those that supposedly from the outer appearance have stuff. That's the reason why we got to be careful how we treat people. You know, because scriptures already tell you can be entertaining angels. We have to be careful what we say to others. We got to be careful that we don't show respect to some as opposed to others because the way they look, the way they talk, the way they dress, the way they smell, different things. You don't put the poor man under your footstool and put the rich man on a pedestal. That's what Yahushua was saying. Masters, those that have servants, have bondsmen and bondswomen, you don't mistreat them. You treat them the way you expect me, speaking of Yahuwah, to treat you. Yah is over you like you right now is over them as far as work is concerned, but they are to follow me like you are to follow me, because if you are following me the way you're supposed to follow me, then you're going to treat them right. If you don't treat them right, then that tells me you're not following me. Because only through Yahushua do you have the humility and the humbleness that far exceeds wickedness or evil. So